out there. Welcome to workshop number 4, where we're going to be talking about product design today. So I just want to say a quick hi and shout out to everybody who's with us. Thank you guys for joining us. The registrations keep going up every week, so it's good to see that people are finding value in these workshops. To see that you guys want to be here and you want to gain information, whether you are able to attend or not, you would at least like the recording. So, and I get a sense that people are starting to share this more because each week the registration goes up a few people at a time. So, I'm greatly appreciative of that. Feel free to say hi in the chat. I'm gonna drop a quick hi in the chat. Feel free to say hi to your fellow participants. And I'm gonna dive right in. We're gonna dive right into product design today. So I hope everybody has had a good week so far. I know it's Wednesday, which is technically hump day. Um, how are you guys feeling about this week? Feel free to let me know that in the chat. Are you tired from this week? Are you excited for the week to be over? Are you ready for the weekend already? Feel free to let me know in the chat. All right. So today we're going, yeah, ready for it to be over. So this week we're talking about product design. On the agenda, I actually optimized this workshop because I know last week you guys hung in there. Thank you, Dee. I'm tired too, but we hanging in there. So this week, I optimized the workshop because last week the workshop was 2 hours. So this is We Are Tech's first time hosting anything like this. My first time ever crafting workshops like this on a weekly basis. So eventually, I am going to give you guys a survey just to get some feedback on how everything has gone so far. But I decided to kind of trim down on some of the engagement pieces because last week it was really engaging, but our workshop ended up being 2 hours. So this week I'm going to just go over some brief information and then we're going to go into design. We'll talk about physical and digital products, the difference between the two. We'll talk about what product design is. We'll talk about the product design process. We'll talk about what is a good. I can put the slides up. That was a good question. Somebody asked in the chat, will the slides, will we get the slides for the workshop? I can. What I've been doing is providing the workshop recordings. You'll get that link as soon as the D. Are you new? Did you just register to the series? Because I do see you as a new name on our list. Yeah, okay, cool. So what I'll do is I'll make sure you get the recordings from all the previous sessions, and I'm gonna add the slides, like a link to the slides for each of these workshops into the recording that you get. So what you get after each workshop is you get an email that sends you a direct link to this recording, and under that recording there's usually like a call to action button, or there's like a description section where that links to other things. So what I'll do in the description section is put links to the slides for that specific recording, and I'll make sure it's in all the other links that are provided as well. So thank you for flagging that. No problem. Thank you for flagging that. I've been planning on doing a newsletter where I could just do a follow up, letting everybody know like here's this series in its entirety, just to promote and let people come in if they haven't been in, and make sure you guys have all of this content in its entirety. Again, as I stated, this is my first time doing something like this, so I'm definitely learning how to make this a model and how to make sure you guys not only get what you need now, but are able to revisit the information on an ongoing basis, and always just have a direct link to me to ask questions, and to our team as it grows, as you have questions with your projects. So we'll talk about what is a good digital product design. We'll go over the intro to the workshop project. So for those of us who are new, each workshop we do a project. And then I'll provide the project share link, which is, again, the session material for this week. I haven't been as expansive on these last couple of workshops with the project, with the session materials, because a lot of it is explained during the session. However, please let me know if you guys would like a vocabulary sheet, any type of documentation that can support you. Only you guys are the only ones that will know what you need in order for me to make it, in order for We Are Tech to make it, in order for us to make sure that we provide what you guys need. So I'll make that a part of the survey as well. I would love to know like what type of session materials you guys like to receive, so that, you know, as you leave these workshops, you can decide, okay, I actually need this. It would be helpful if I had maybe this piece of information or this type of document that guided me through the process. So I would love to know that. And then at the very end of the workshop, I'll go over opportunities and product design. So with no further ado, I'm going to dive right in to our first slide. So today we are talking about product design. And before we get into the actual concept or the practice of product design, we must talk about the difference between physical and digital products. When we say product design, it can be applied to both. It can be applied to physical products that require actual materials being manufactured and then distributed and then provided in the retail space directly to the customer. Physical products are tangible products. Designers, you know, create them. They create the whole outlook, the artistry of a physical product. And they actually can use digital tools to do it. We're not going to focus on using digital tools to make physical products or to design physical products today. We're going to focus solely on digital products, that being features and online digital assets that are developed by, you know, us, the designers, the developers, and they're then uploaded, you know, to whatever cloud network, Wi-Fi based network, and that is what provides it to the customer. So some examples, and actually, I would like for you guys to answer this for me. What are some examples of digital products? I know I have some pictures here. You may be able to make out what they are, but in the chat, can you type in what are some examples of digital products? I would like to identify. I would like to see you guys identify things that you guys are familiar with every day. So, what are some examples of digital products? Good apps. That's a good one. What's another example of a digital product? Something that we use every day, things that exist online. What are some other examples of digital products? Actually, a cell phone does connect to a digital network. It is digitally empowered. However, it is a physical product because it's tangible. Calendars, Julie said calendars. So yeah, like Google Calendar, like an online calendar. Good books. I know a lot of people, they'll, you know, I know on YouTube, I stay getting those advertisements about how to make money from Audible and stuff like that. Music, yep, music can be a digital good. Yep, good. Okay, good. These are I love these answers because they're loosely related to some of the things that are on the screen. TV shows, yes, TV shows are digital assets. Movies are digital assets. Great. We live in a digital world, so all of these things now actually are digital assets. They used to be when we look at like music, books, and movies, those used to be tangible goods. Like you used to have to you used to have to buy a CD, you used to have to buy a record, you used to have to buy an 8 track, you used to have to buy an actual tape in order to listen to music. But now you can listen to it just online. Movies, you used to yeah, right? Miss it. We're old. Yeah, I know, right? I feel old. VHS tapes, you know, you used to have to buy VHS tapes in order to watch movies. You used to have to buy DVDs in order to watch movies. And books, you used to have to go physically buy a book. I still physically buy books, but you could technically download them. So good. A couple answers that I did not hear that I want to call out. Courses. Courses are digital products. So you may see people who create courses, like similar to myself, who create workshops or some type of educational content, and it is provided online as a digital product. Websites, websites are digital products. So social networks, even though we kind of know them as apps, these are products. These websites that all of these features are hosted on are digital products. One thing I saw that I put here is digital stickers. So my sister, I love her dearly. She's a lawyer. She went to Spelman and Howard. She she always encourages me in the tech space to try new things. And she had mentioned to me the importance of how you could sell digital products on like Etsy and stuff. So I don't know if you guys know about this or not, but on Etsy you can sell like digital copies of like a planner. So Judy had mentioned calendars on here. On Etsy, you can like graphic design like a weekly or monthly planner, some type of life planner, and literally upload it to Etsy. And people will pay for the design that you've created so that they can use it as a way to organize themselves. So eventually, I do want to show the correlation between all these workshops because I do think a lot of the skills that we've learned throughout these workshops can be tied together in order to be packaged in some form of product. Um, so yeah, just wanted to shout that out. Digital products also consist of stickers, planners, different things that you can graphic design can be a digital product. And last week we learned about 3D design and animation. Those are digital products as well. All right, so next slide. So what is product design? Product design is the process of ideating, developing, and refining products that meet specific market needs and solve user problems. So when you're creating something, you're basically looking at the audience that you're creating for, and you're thinking about how can you create a solution for them. And on one end, you have the idea of what you want to create, but then you also have to think about what does the person actually need and how am I going to design this in a way, how am I going to design my idea that I want to create in a way that it really solves a problem for the user. So a product designer helps create products that delight customers by defining product and business goals. So again, what you want the product to be in alignment with what it needs to be in order to really serve a customer, and anticipating market opportunities and user needs. Here I have some pictures of some mock-ups of what the process is like when you're participating in product design. Today, we are not going to do much sketch work. We're actually going to dive right into Figma. So actually, now that I bring it up, I'm going to bring up the site Figma so that while I am doing this, you guys can create your account for Figma. So that when we do get to that portion of the workshop, you already have that account created. So the design process, and can I get a thumbs up in the chat if I'm moving at an okay pace? Feel free to let me know if I'm moving too fast or if the pace that I'm moving at is just fine. So product design, great. Thank you for that feedback. There are there's not only 5 stages to product design, but when I was basically doing research for this, these are the common uh, areas of the process that came up for me. So empathize, or also known as understand, that is the portion of the process where you do your most research. So you are really trying to learn about the users you're designing for and reach a deeper understanding as to what their desires are, what their needs are, what their experience may already be in the area that your product is addressing. The second area or second part of the process is to define. So, what you do in this define stage is you create opportunities based on user issues, needs, and insights collected. So, in this define process, you're narrowing down. Like after you understand your audience, you then narrow down. Okay, this is actually what we're to create. This is what needs to be created to address this space. This is what is needed in order to solve this problem. In the third stage, you ideate. So you brainstorm and you develop creative ideas and solutions by giving the team freedom. I love this part. My favorite part of this process is ideation because I like to think out of the box. And when you ideate, it's best to have, a nice little a wall with sticky notes so that you can just write out every idea that comes to you, and be able to make connections between all those different ideas, so that by time you get to the following stage, you've really thought critically about what all your product can be, and how you can really centralize those different ideas to make the most valuable product for the customer. I do want to highlight some vocabulary real quick. So in tech, there is this concept called MVP. And what an MVP is, it's technically the minimal, I'm writing it in the chat, minimal viable product. Yes. Yeah, minimal viable product. And I actually probably should have asked you guys to look that up so that I can see what answers you get, but hey, we're here. So MVP, in tech, what you want to work towards building is the MVP. Now, feel free to raise your hand in the chat. Have you ever had an idea and thought, like, I wanted to do this, I wanted to have that, I want this thing to have all these bells and whistles? Can you let me know in the chat? If, like, you put a hand up in the chat if you've ever had an idea and had all these different features and components for what you wanted that idea to be? Yay, nay? Is it just me? Maybe. Okay. If if you've ever been in that position where you've had an idea and you've had, okay, I got one person, okay. If you've ever had, okay, a couple, okay, okay. So when you have an idea, it's beautiful that you're acting off that excitement because you're like, oh, I can do this. That confidence is driving you. But in tech, what you have to do is you have to narrow down that idea or the feature set of that idea to three core functions, and or maybe even one core function. And what that is your MVP. When you narrow down and refine and refine and refine your product down to the very minimum thing that the person would need in order for the problem to be solved, whether it be 1 to 3 features, that is what your minimal viable product is, your MVP. That is what you create. That is what you design. That is what you build. And you may have had 10 ideas or 10 features that you wanted to put in that product, but you have to narrow it down to those core functions of 1 to 3 features so that you can create something that you can then hand to someone that is in your target audience, also known as your stakeholder audience, and get them to use it so that they can give you feedback on whether or not it is, of value to them. Once you've gone through that threshold, which is actually, I'm kind of skipping ahead here, so let me take a step back. So coming up with your MVP is the prototyping stage. So after you've empathized to get an understanding of the audience, you've defined, what it is you actually need to create in order to, solve the problem for the customer. And then you start to ideate around, like, what does this process need to look like and how does it need to function? What do these features need to be in order to really facilitate that solution? You then trim that down and get to your prototype, which is your MVP, which is those core 1 to 3 features. Again, I emphasize because I've been there. 1 to 3 features that solves the problem for the customer, and you put it in their hands. Whether you share it with family members, put it, you publish it, as you even publish like a survey, just describing what it is. You may share it to people who are within that target audience just to test it. You share it with them because that prototype is the core of what you want to do, and then you go into that testing. So in that testing phase, you basically have those people use it and you have them give you feedback so that you can then understand, like, okay, is this useful? Does it really solve the problem? Does it solve it in an efficient way? And are some parts of what I created useful or useless? Do I need to take certain things out? Would it be more useful to add certain things in? And then that those results from the testing bring you right back to stage one, which is empathize. So now you have more information to have a better understanding and more empathy for the problem you're addressing and the audience you're addressing, which allows you to further define what you're doing, ideate around that, add to the prototype, and test again. So tech is a very iterative process. It's very fun. Well, I will say it can be challenging, but when you have more knowledge behind what you're doing, it allows you to make the process more fun. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. I hope that was helpful. I hope it was very, very helpful. So I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into these different processes. I'll talk about what makes good product design, and then we will dive into Figma. I want to give us like 30 minutes at least for design. So maybe I might be able to get through these slides within the next 5 minutes, and we'll have a little extra time. So empathize. So I wanted to break down. I've kind of talked a bit about these stages, but I want to highlight like examples of what this includes. So empathize is basically research. You're researching the user, you're researching the business, you're understanding the current landscape and assumptions. So current landscape can consist of the market that you're addressing, and also like you need to understand yourself and your team. What are you guys assuming about the audience that you're addressing, and what are you assuming about their experience with whatever problem area you're addressing? And then you identify their current behavior. So you have to look at like, okay, if I'm addressing this problem, how is someone currently behaving in this space? What solutions do they already have? And how are they interacting with those products? What are their problems with those products? Or what is their problem with the process of solving, or with the current solutions that exist? Or what is the experience that they're having with the space that you're addressing, so that you can identify, okay, here's a pain point, maybe I might want to build around that, solving from there. So in order to get these insights, in order to understand and empathize with your audience, you must conduct interviews. You could do a user journey analysis, which really is just mapping out like the workflow of what someone does. Like if I wanted to do a user journey analysis for someone taking the bus, I would think about, okay, if someone wants to take the bus, what's the first thing that they do? They probably might Google how much bus fare costs. They might Google bus times, and then they may find out where the bus stop is. And then once they get there, they may discover, how do I pay for the bus? Do I need an app? Okay, they may need to download the app, or I don't know, go to the bus station and get the SEPTA card. Like that's an example of a user journey. So you want to really think through like, what is someone's experience with the area that I'm addressing, so that you can really understand where they may experience pain points and where your solution may become relevant for them. Surveys and audits. So audits is really doing like a deep dive on whether you already have an existing product or platform. You could really look at like, okay, if my platform is doing this and is designed this way, look at all of our content and all of our features. How is it really functioning, and how is the performance? Or you could look at, if you haven't built something already, you can do an audit of other platforms that are similar to yours to really get a better understanding of what's out there for the audience that you're addressing, and the problem that you're addressing as well, and how people may experience it being solved on other platforms. So define. Define, it consists of you defining a strategy, defining the scope of work. This one is huge. And I will be honest, as a tech entrepreneur, I have learned my lesson with defining the scope of work, because tech is such an iterative process. You may not understand at first, until you do trial and error, that you may need one thing instead of another thing. And when you need one thing instead of another thing, that means you may need a different amount of resources, whether it be money to pay people, or you may need different time. You may have thought it was going to take you 1 week, whereas it may take you two. So the defined process, do not sleep on the defined process when it comes to the scope of work, because that is the part that's going to really help you really maximize your time and your resources available. And in this stage, you define the success criteria and the measures, which is very, very important. Like in the prior stage, when you empathize, you want to understand the landscape and your assumptions, and that can help you narrow down what success looks like and what you're measuring, so that you are very clear on like, here's what we assumed, so we want to test against that to really confirm like, is what we assumed valid or is what we assumed invalid. So really narrow down and define process, like, what do I want to measure, and how are we going to measure it? Like if I'm trying to create something that helps people, going back to the bus example, if I want to create something that helps people uh, get better information on bus times, I need to be able to measure, okay, I need to think about where are people finding these bus time information? How long does it take them to get that information? Is that information always updated? Like just different things like that. And then I could tie it into my design. Like, okay, is my design going to, speed up the time in which people get bus updates? And how are we going to measure that? May not be the best example, but I hope that's giving some insight as to just like the importance of thinking about what does success look like and how are we going to measure it. Um, Even on the survey end, I know in a recent process of UX research that I did, and I'll talk about UX research later. Our goal was simply to get people signed up for our survey and conduct interviews. And our definition of success was getting 10 people signed up for a survey. That was it. And we measured that by just looking at how many emails we put out versus how many signups that we received. So it's all a process. And the one thing I love about tech is you can always meet yourself where you're at to make these decisions. Success doesn't always have to be defined by what you see around you. It's defined by what you have set as your standard for how you want to pace yourself and move forward. So the definition or defined stage, it includes user stories. So going back to what I was talking about with the interviews, you can create user stories based off of, the people that you may have interviewed. User experience map that kind of ties to the user journey analysis. You can, after having conducted those interviews and those surveys, you can really narrow down like, here's what someone's experiences is like with this space or with this type of product. A site map or an app map, that technically is like the layout. I won't say the layout in terms of like the design of your product. It kind of can be, but more so um, the actual flow. So like when someone clicks here, they go here. From the home page, they're gonna go to here. From the shopping page, they'll go here. Like that's what a site map is. It's based. It kind of looks like what this slide looks like. Like you can create bubbles and just link them together with lines. Just a kind of like a description of the workflow of when people click on different things and what different pages will consist of. But it doesn't have to fully be like the full out design, because that's not this part of the process yet. And then last, you can define the value proposition, meaning what value are we proposing people are to gain from this experience. So I know I just talked a lot. Can you guys let me know in the chat if you're good? If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat because I will answer them in real time. Feel free to let me know if I'm moving too fast or if everything is a-okay. Please let me know with a thumbs up if everything is all good. All right, cool. We're making good time. All right. Dang. All right. I think we may get to like 35 minutes. We'll see. All right. So these three actually are very explanatory. I think I spent enough time on empathize and define because those are parts of the process that people tend to not fully pay attention to. I've been doing user journey. Somebody said I've been in the chat said I've been doing user journey analysis since childhood. Apparently, yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, that's a good point. That's a really, really good point. And that's why, like, this is why We Are Tech exists. And this is why I really am passionate about keeping this business, doing what it does. A lot of the things that are required in these professional practices in the tech space are things that we have been doing. Like, for real. Like, a lot of us have really just being observant, being creative, being imaginative, these are core aspects of what makes technology what it is. Hence the term why this company is called We Are Tech. Like, we are tech. The things that are innately in us are core aspects of what makes technology be developed, designed, and built. So I like what Judy just said in the chat. Yeah, I'm more than likely sure you've been doing user journey analysis since your childhood. So back to this slide. So these three components: ideate, prototype, and test. These are pretty straightforward. Ideation is really just co-designing potential solutions. This includes, so you're basically determining the features, the flow, the structure, like just the format. So I know prior to this, I was talking about define, how it's not like when you're doing like a site map or an app map, that's more of like a description of what it is you're creating. But the ideation part is when you can actually start designing and sketching and writing things out and really making correlations between screens and things like that. This includes journey mapping. So you may want to start sketching out like, okay, from this button, we're going to go here. And then when they scroll down, it'll, this will be responsive. Like, there's different things you can do in the ideation process. You're really just, it includes organizing journey flow and features, and you're sketching out those basic designs. So ideation is my favorite part. And then once you have that, you then go into prototype. So you start to actually design the solution. You write the content that will be tested with users, and you document design decisions. So that's a key one. Documenting design decisions are very key, especially when you're working with a team, because you want to make sure you're operating your team as like you want to think of your team as like a full brain. Like, you want to set up your design process in a way where if someone picks up this design, they can take it and pick up right off where you left off. That could be done with comments and tons of different things, reports, and I'll show you that in Figma, like how to leave comments and stuff, so that say you're building a team or you hand off your design to someone, they have all that insight. So this includes further design and content exploration, sharing design and rationale with key stakeholders, which I talked about before. So whether it be people people that you found through conducting surveys and interviews, you want to put the product in their hands. You want to get that insight from them. And that is conducted further in your testing. So in your testing, you can test your solution through A/B testing. A/B testing is when you're basically providing two different designs or a variety of design options to different audiences so that you can see how it performs. When I say different audiences, I do not mean different demographics. Oftentimes with A/B testing, you're targeting the same audience. It's just in two sample groups, but you're giving them different designs of the same thing, so that based off that same demographic that got two different elements or two different designs, you can figure out which one tests better and which one works better. Usability testing, that consists of literally measuring like the performance of its usefulness, whether it solves the problem and how efficiently it solves the problem and how well it performs with that audience. And you can do all this against success measures. So going back to the define stage, you need to define what you're measuring and how you're measuring it so that in the testing phase, you're already prepared and you know what you're looking for when you put that product in people's hands. In the testing phase, it also consists of reporting, and optimizing. And this brings you all the way back to the empathize stage, which is stage one. So after you've tested, you basically draft a report and then you can figure out, okay, here's where we need to optimize. And then you go right back to the empathize phase with that information because you now have new understanding about what you're doing and who you're doing it for and how you're doing it so that you can then refine, the define stage, the ideate stage, the prototype stage, and bring it back to testing. So testing includes creating test plans, doing that audit, coming up with a research methodology. um, so research methodology, which basically is just your approach to research, whether it be like I have a friend on here who is a data scientist, so I'm pretty sure he knows a lot about qualitative and quantitative data. But in your research methodology, you can basically use different approaches to determine what kind of information you want back. So, like for qualitative, maybe you're looking for information that provides insight on someone's sentiment around the product, how they feel about it, like whether they like it or not, whether they feel comfortable using it. Whereas, like on a quantitative end, maybe you just might want to know if I design this product this way, will it lead to people clicking this button X amount of times? Or will it lower the amount of clicks that it takes them to get to a certain solution in the product? So it's when it comes to research methodology, really think about what kind of information are we trying to gather and what approaches can we take to gather it. And that actually leads back to down to the last one, which is data and sentiment analysis. So you're really just like when you look at those reports and your approach to optimizing what you've done, really look at your data, really look at insight on people's sentiment, and really analyze that so that after you finish your testing, you can go right back to step one when you are you're expressing empathy and understanding for the audience and the space you're addressing so that you could really get the most out of this process. So that was a whole mouthful on the design process. Again, I'm trying to get us to the point where I can, go into Figma and just start designing. But I wanted you guys to have this information so that you have an understanding of what the process consists of, because you can make anything you want. You'll see when we get into Figma that you can add colors, buttons, shapes, anything you want to a design. But it is important that you understand the design process so that you can make informed and intentional decisions around what you are doing. All right. So, what is good digital product design? On the right side of the screen, I have some examples of a few different apps. They look fairly small, but I think you guys have used some of these sites before. We have Duolingo here at the top. We have Airbnb in the middle, and then we have Spotify here at the bottom. And all of these different examples touch on these elements that make a good digital product design. So a good digital product design is user-centric, meaning it focuses specifically on the user and their user's experience. Simplicity, it's simple, straightforward, to the point. Just keep it as simple as possible. Like, I know, going back to what I was talking about earlier about how like you may have wanted to make something and it had all these different elements to it. Keep it as simple as possible. If you keep things simple, then you can expand. And honestly, the most simple things are honestly the most complex, but they're simple. They're complex because you've really simplified everything, if that makes sense. Uh, consistency. The best designs are consistent. I think that's a big thing when it comes to even branding. You want to be consistent. You want to build new behavior. Like, I think the most challenging thing with technology is that you're creating behavior. With tangible goods, oftentimes with tangible physical products, you're really just aligning with people's existing behavior. Like lotion, for example. I got my lotion here. If I wanted to make a lotion brand, like, I'm already creating something that exists within somebody's behavior. But with tech, you're creating behavior more often because you're digitizing something that someone already either already is doing, or you're creating something new that they can do. So be as consistent as possible in your design so that it makes the act of creating new behavior interest as simple as possible and easy as possible, because it is not an easy task. Accessibility. You need to make sure whatever you are designing, like a broad audience of people can access it. The internet is worldwide. Everyone can access it. So you want to make sure your design is accessible to all audiences across different socio demographics, as well as you know abilities and disabilities as well. Responsiveness. This basically alludes to across devices, in my opinion. You want to make sure your design is responsive to how the screen may look in different scenarios, whether it be the screen being minimized or larger. You want your design to respond to that. Interactive. So you want to have good interaction in your design. I think that one's kind of straightforward because I think we all know when we open something, it kind of gives us like an immediate reaction, like, "Ooh, that's really cool!" Like when it responds well to you, you know. And that could be also a part of the definition for responsive as well. Like, make sure it's one thing to like have an app that like has what you think it needs in it because you want it to do this thing, but you never know. Like, again, going back to the fact that you're creating behavior, there may be extra parts or extra steps within, say, like the onboarding process of someone using your product. You may need to have extra steps in your product so that it responds to people actually learning how to use your product and interact with it. Good product design has visual hierarchy. Now, visual hierarchy is basically designing from top to bottom and making sure that your product, I mean, your design has a connection between what is at the top of it all the way through the bottom of it. I think I could show you this better than I could tell you this. And I think you may have noticed this, but didn't know you were looking at this. Like, whenever you're looking at like a good social media post that's well designed, oftentimes the information is all the way from top to bottom. You're reading it from top to bottom. So that visual hierarchy is really creating your design in a way where if someone is looking from top to bottom, they have a visual guide of like what the information is and what they're looking at. Things shouldn't just be all over the place where I don't know how to actually comprehend from top to bottom, left to right, what I'm actually looking at. So a good example of visual hierarchy, whether when it comes to like a product design, being like an app or a website, every website has that menu bar at the top. You know, that's a part of visual hierarchy. Placing things where people are going to see it and know to see it first, going from top to bottom. Performance, that good product design when it comes to performance is really comes it kind of loops back to visual hierarchy, like, and the interactive piece and responsiveness. Is it designed in well enough to where it actually does what it's supposed to do and people know that it's doing what it's supposed to do? Like, you know, you don't want to design your product in a way where people aren't able to comprehend what they're supposed to gain, what value they're supposed to gain from it, because then they'll never be able to really maximize its performance. I mean, maximize its utility, which then impacts its performance. It won't perform because people aren't really using it or understanding how to use it. Scalability, I have a friend of mine who could probably answer this way better than me, but scalability, in my opinion, really is like, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. And one moment, somebody said in the chat, in regards to visual hierarchy pet peeve on Instagram, on some devices, their parameter cuts off an inch all the way around for stories and posts. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, see, good. I'm glad you're making these connections. Yeah, like once you understand like certain concepts, your lens on the things you look at every day is just going to change. Like you're going to point these things out, and it's going to really actually make you understand like I could have designed that better, you know? To be honest. So, which is why we're all here, because I think everybody's capable of doing great things. So scalability, in my opinion, goes back to she said I agree. Scalability goes back to what I was talking about before in terms of like having idea and having 5 different things or 10 different things that you wanted it to be. And then realizing, okay, if I'm going to get to this minimal viable product, I need to narrow it down to 1 to 3. Having 10 the ideas at first is not a bad thing, because then that gives you a roadmap for which you need to scale to, especially if your research, that testing stage, um, really validates like, oh, okay, ideas 4 through 10 are actually needed too, but let me put that on pause until features 1 through 3 are like narrowed down. And when you narrow down the design of those core features, you design them in a way where you can introduce other core features. And then, in my opinion, that is what scalability is. Data informed. So um, data informed means you basically use that quantitative and qualitative data to make informed design decisions. So this can include analyzing usage data, A/B testing, or conducting interviews or surveys, which we previously talked about before. So with no further ado, I think, yes, we are at the point of the workshop. So I didn't get there in 30 minutes, but I managed to get there, in 47 minutes. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to redesign one of the following designs in Figma. I've selected three different options. So we can either redesign Cash App in honor of the Queen, Beyonce. We can redesign the Sacred website opening page, like the opening page of the Sacred website. Or I can take a recommendation from one of you guys in the chat for what type of website or what product you would like to redesign. So basically, we're going to take one of these examples, one of these options, and we're going to go into Figma and we are going to recreate it. So I'll give like a minute in the chat for you guys to vote on what you would like to see redesigned for this workshop. So if you'd like to see Cash App redesigned in Figma, feel free to type in Cash App. If you want to see the Sacred website redesigned in Figma, you can type in Sacred. Or if you have a choice, like if you have any website, any app that you have in mind, you can drop it in the chat and we'll do that as our project. So we got 1 vote for Cash App, okay? Okay. 2 votes for Cash App. Okay, looks like Cash App is gonna be it. Okay, cool. That's cool because Cash App is super simple. And that'll keep it simple to where we can literally look at a reference. So I'm gonna pull up a Cash App UI reference in the chat. I mean, not in the chat, in on my screen, and then we'll look at a couple of them. All right, cool. So it looks like we're gonna do Cash App. So I'm just gonna pull up. Oh, where's my phone? Actually, I can even pull it up on my phone just to like have an easier, quicker. Yeah, I'm gonna use my phone. I wish I could connect my phone to here so that as I'm going over these different screens, you guys can see it. Um, but I could talk you guys through the process. Alrighty, so looks like we are going to redesign Cash App. All right, so I see we've had some more people come um to the workshop. Hello, hello. So what we just covered, and I'll just do a brief summary of what everything that was just covered. In today's workshop so far, we've covered a lot of information. We've covered what is product design, we've covered the design process, we talked about physical versus digital goods, and then we talked about what makes a good digital product design. So now what we're gonna do is we are gonna go over to Figma. So I'm actually gonna go back to I'm actually going to start this process over. Let me just go to figma.com. Hopefully it doesn't open up my dashboard. It does. Let me see if I can log out. But nah, it's not that necessary. Okay, I'll just go to the dashboard. Start from there. So start sharing screen. Let's share. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So we are on Figma. So I'll drop this link in the chat again, figma.com. When you go to Figma, basically you can sign in with Google. You can create an account with Google. From there, you will, confirm the sign in. Or you can create a new account in general with your other email address if you'd like. Figma is very simple. I don't believe you have to do paid. There are paid options like you can. So let me go over this dashboard. So after you've signed in, and actually I want to confirm, have you guys created your Figma account? So please let me know in the chat. Have you created your Figma account? Because I dropped it in the chat earlier. So please, okay, good. I got a thumbs up. Great, 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 great. All right, good. I got 2 thumbs up. Perfect. Okay. So you should already be here then. So, because I've tried to log out and it pretty much takes me here. So I want to talk you through this real quick. So when you are on Figma, I believe there's free plans. So I'm going to click the view plans button right here on the left. These are the different plan options. You have the starter plan, which is free. I do believe it gives you like limits where you can only create like a certain amount of projects, pages, and then you can upgrade to professional and organization. Honestly, I've only really used the starter option. So I don't think you really like, especially when you're just starting out and you're trying to design, you don't have to really pay for too much. You want to meet yourself where you're at. I use this basically for creating new designs, but you could technically use FigJam, which is basically a tool within Figma, where if you wanted to create like flow charts, Gantt charts, or charts, or plan out different roadmaps. But I basically create design files, and here's like a bunch of like my design files that I've used Figma for. So to start things off, since we've decided that we're going to redesign Cash App, what you can do is create a design file. So I'm going to click design file right here. Wait, 1 moment. There we go. So I was originally actually in the team section. Sorry. So I was on my main page. So right here where it says your teams, underneath it says drafts. What you should be able to click is the plus button right here where it says plus design file, and then that should add a new design for you. And then what you'll do is the page will open up to a untitled web page, untitled workspace. Um, So I want to name this real quick. I'll just name it workshop, or I'll say Cash App redesign. So you can name your project up here. I'll go over some elements before diving into the design. So up here is where your account is. The share button, you can share. You could change the share settings. So like you could change it to where only people who are invited to this file can view it, or anyone with the link can view it. Here's where you can get the actual link that you can copy to then share with people. This is important because this can be a way for you to add people to actually contribute to the app. Here is where you could go into dev mode, and I do believe in dev mode it gives you the actual code, or you can manipulate the code, but you have to move to a paid team in order to do that. Up here where this play button is, that's how you test this. So you technically could click play, and if you had basically programmed different buttons in the design to link to different pages, you'll be able to see that in the play option. Here's where you could change the view, so you can zoom in and out, and you can basically change uh, how you see different things. So like the pixel grid is activated, which we'll see that in a moment. Pixel preview, snap to pixel grid, that basically is when you want to snap to a certain pixel on the screen, you can make elements do that. Rulers, outlines, layout grids, these are things you can activate here. You can even activate the option for comments, which is good for when you want to get everyone on the same page. You can share this design with people and then leave comments in areas so that your team can function as one brain, where they can see like, okay, for this portion of the design we need to make sure you can add this feedback. So I'm going to come up here to the top. So up here at the top, we have the Figma icon, which is the main menu button, where you can do a lot of the core features that you see in many different interfaces, whether it be changing things about the file, like making a new file, different features around editing, such as undoing, redoing, copying things, pasting things. You can change the view of this workspace using the view option. You can add in objects, add in text. You can change the arrangement. You can manipulate vectors. You can even add in plugins and widgets. I think Figma has a lot of good plugins that make design way easier. Its widgets as well really add in a lot of core elements to being able to design more efficiently. Um, right here we have our selection cursor, so it gives you the option to select by moving things or by scaling things. Here, this button next to this that looks kind of like a picket fence is where you can basically make certain groups. So you can make a frame. So a frame is like the size of the user interface that you would like to create. So in this case, we're going to be making a mobile device UI. So the frame. So if you click on it and you drag and drop, you basically can make the frame that you are looking to design within. So I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to click frame up here, click that option. And actually the second time, what I can do right here on the right side of the screen, it automatically pops up different options for different user interface sizes. And when I say user interface, a user interface is basically the screen you're looking at. So the user interface for a website, it's a certain dimension. The user interface for a mobile app is a different size. Like the user interface is what you see, what you're looking at when you look at the screen. So in this case, if I wanted to make my user interface for the size of an iPhone 14, I can click that and it gives me this very large design. I mean, this very large canvas to work with. So I can delete this frame, and I'm doing that by right clicking over frame one. So I'm gonna delete this real quick, right click over it, and then actually I think I just click delete on the keyboard. Yep, I can hit delete, and you can move these frames. So I'm clicking on my frame right here, and I'm just gonna move it over here. And then what you can do is you can rename the frames. So I double clicked on where it said iPhone 14 and 15, and I'm gonna rename this to just say home page. What's the most user-friendly size for all mobile devices? So someone in the chat said, what's the most user-friendly size for all mobile devices, as not everyone has the newer devices? That's a good question. And I think actually I may want to resize this frame to be a different size. So I would say like, maybe I'm a little biased because I have a what is it, 11 or something like that. I would say like the iPhone, about like the iPhone 11, I think. Let me look at these frame options one more time. So iPhone SE or Android, you kind of want to be in between. Like honestly, I'm gonna change this because I don't think the 14 and 15 Pro Max are the best options to go with. Maybe like the Pro. So anything that's like, when I look at the screen here, we have iTeen 15 and 14 Pro. So these numbers are dimensions. They're like length and height. So 393 by 852. That measurement is in pixels. So when you're designing for digital products, everything is measured in pixels. So, when we're measuring like our height, it's in inches. Length and height in digital, for digital measurements, is pixels. I would say when I look at this, the iPhone 14 and 15 Pro, which is 393 pixels by 852, and then the Android large, yeah, anything between 300 and like 80 pixels by around like 700 pixels is what I would do. But when you think about it, like, you do have to design for, so this is where responsiveness comes into play. So like when we design here on Figma, when you click the play button up here, you can choose what kind of, I think you can choose what kind of device you want it to preview on. I'm not sure if I'm mixing this up with another platform, but you can at first design for a specific size of the of device, but when you test it, I think you can change the design, like the actual size of it. But I would say like anything that's within the range of like the pro size devices and the like Android large size devices. I think those are like the most standard. Like anything between 380 pixels by about 700 to 800 pixels is pretty, I mean, at least 800 pixels is very standard. So to answer that question in the chat, like anything from like three, I'll even change my answer a little bit. Anything from around 360 pixels to 390 pixels when it comes to width, and 800 pixels to 852 pixels in height. That's like the average in my opinion. And um I'll type that in the chat as well, so that if you ever wanted to revisit that information, you have that for you. So 800 to 852. You want to stay within the devices that fit like in the palm of your hand. Because not everybody has the same size hands as me, but like this is a pretty average device. But I know people who have like athletes and stuff who have huge hands, like they always go for the Pro Max. But not everybody has big hands like that and buys a phone like that. So yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna delete this real quick. So somebody said in the chat, so going lower numbers is more user friendly as to getting the most possible users. Yes, yeah, yep, exactly. But again, like oftentimes you well, two things. This comes down to responsiveness. So when we do like the web development um, workshop, we'll get some more insight on how to design for a product being responsive. I mean, how to develop a design to be responsive. But in these types of prototyping platforms like Figma, sometimes the design will automatically optimize, like it'll automatically be responsive. So it it won't matter. I'm sorry, it won't matter too much as to whether you designed a big enough or small enough design. And again, like when you had mentioned like going with lower numbers is more user friendly, don't worry about like the user friendliness portion of it, because when you actually develop the product, it's going to be responsive to the size of the device. That's what I mean by that. All right. So I hope that helps. Can you let me know if that was helpful, if that was insightful, if that answered your question? Um, so real quick, all right, thank you. So real quick, I'm gonna add in, let me look at the UI images for Cash App real quick. So Cash App has like 4 main screens. So I'm gonna basically duplicate these. I'm gonna duplicate this real quick. So what I can do is I can click on it and do Control or Command D and duplicate it. I'm gonna duplicate it 3 times. So I did Control D 3 times to duplicate that one page. And right now I'm gonna zoom out, and to do that, I hold down Command and I scroll up on my mouse so that I can move things around. And I have the mouse that has the little middle rolly ball. So I scroll up and down on that to move it. And then when I want to like actually grab the whole screen and move it, I hold down on my middle cursor. So right now I'm holding down on my middle my middle button on the mouse, and that little white hand popped up to then grab the whole screen. So what I want to do, I'm gonna make 4 and I actually want to bring this into the design. I'm going to bring this image um, of the 4 screens I'm going to create with Cash App. I'm going to bring a little reference image into the design just to make things a little bit easier for you guys to see what's happening. So to add in an image, what I do, I actually can drag it and drop it in here, I believe. Let me see. There we go. So now that I've added in these 4 different pages, and I'm going to rename them in a moment, but I want to add in an image, a reference image real quick so that I could know the names when I want to name these pages. And in order to do that, there's this button right here that has a little rectangle or square on it. And this button right here allows you to add elements in. So if I wanted to add in a rectangle into my device, I can click rectangle or click R and drag it in. Lines, arrows, ellipses, which are circles, polygons, stars, images, which I'm going to click on now. I can click on any of these items to add these elements to my design. So I'm going to click place image, and I just screenshot the image that I want to add in. So I'm just going to click, I just added it, and then it's telling me to click or drag to place. So I'm going to just click it so I could drag it down here. And now I have a little reference image. So I'm not cheating. I'm not just going to like place these over the UI and make the UI. I'm not going to do that. But I'm putting this reference image here so I can know. So my first page is the home page. I'm about to rename these 4 pages. So my second page looks like payment scheduling page. I didn't even know you could do that on Cash App. I guess this must be an older version of Cash App. And then the third page is the activity page. Okay. And then the fourth page is the confirmation page. Okay, so one thing I want to call out, what we're gonna do is we're creating kind of like a stealth prototype. We're not creating a prototype that is fully interactive where when you click on certain fields, it works. No, we're just going to use this platform to show the interface and show what it could look like. And this actually suffices when you are doing the design process. You don't always have to make something that is fully interactive in order to put it in people's hands to get them to see what the concept is of what you're creating. When I was younger, when I first was making apps and stuff, I would do this all the time and it would be so effective. I would make little sketches of what I wanted to create and I would put it on sites like this, and I would only program like one button on each page that would link the pages together just so people could see the concept of what I've created. And then once they were able to see it, I would get feedback. I think oftentimes people think they need to hire all these engineers and all these different bells and whistles just to get the smallest bit of results, and it's like, no, like Figma is free. You can go on Figma, you can design a mock-up of what you want to do and lightly program it to do the most basic function of just showing people what you want, what your idea is, and then you put it in people's hands, and that gives you information to go back and do this process again. Like, the name of the game when it comes to tech is just like, I remember when I was working in the tech industry, there was these signs in the office that would say, move fast and break things. Like, that is the goal. The goal is to really like rapidly prototype, get things in front of people, and then move on to the next thing so that you could just, not no longer pigeonhole yourself to like what you think you need to do versus what you can do. Because there's a lot that you can do. All right. So can I get a thumbs up if we have 4 frames in our design? You don't need to have a reference image in there. That's just for me to help facilitate this workshop. You could follow along with me. But if you have 4 frames that are renamed, yeah, somebody said in the chat, first to market, adjust later. Exactly. Can you let me know if you are following along with having these 4 frames in your design? Or if you just want to watch and do it later, you can let me know that in the chat. I just want to know where I am with you guys so that I am moving efficiently and not leaving anyone behind or making anyone feel overwhelmed by my pace. So I would love some feedback in the chat if you guys have these 4 frames, or at least have the let me know if you prefer to just watch and as I go. Feel free to let me know in the chat. Would love to know in the chat where we are as a community. Okay, great, great. Got some good feedback. All right, cool. So here's what I'm gonna do. So first thing, this first frame, somebody said they'll go back and do it later. Good. I'm glad to know that watching. Okay, good. So this first frame is our home page. I'm gonna make the background green so that I can match this page here. So to do that, I'm gonna click on where it says home page. And then on this right side panel, you have 2 options. You have the option where you can change all of the elements, like the alignment of the elements, its position in this workspace, its width and its height, the roundness of like the corners, if the corners have a radius. So I'm actually going to give these corners like a 20-degree radius and see what it does to it. Good. So now you can see that like now my actual interface is starting to take shape. I think I want to get rid of that though, because I think when I go into the prototyping stage, I don't want my design to look like that. I want it to just automatically fall in line with the actual device that it'll be on as a default. But I just wanted to show that. So what I'm going to change first is I'm going to change the color. So to change this color, I go to where it says fill, and then I'm going to click the little dropper button, which is so popular amongst different all the different platforms. And I'm gonna literally design this device the same way that it's designed here. I'm probably gonna have to find some elements. So, but for now, I'm gonna use placeholders. So it looks like on Squarespace, I mean on Squarespace, on Cash App, there's a little profile icon at the top. I'm gonna make it 60 by 60. So this little icon here, I'm gonna drag it down. This is the profile. I'm gonna change its width and height to 60 by 60. Now what happens is every time you add an element to a design and you add it on a specific page, right here on the left where you have your layers, it automatically gets added in under the page that you've created. So if I wanted to hide the elements of that page, I can click that menu button right there, and I can click it again if I want to see it again. And I can rename it. So I'm gonna just put profile picture. There we go. So eventually I can fill that in with a picture, but I'm not going to do that right now. It looks like also, let me expand this just so I can, I'm going to bring this. Oh, no, I don't want it right there. Hold on. Let me expand this a little bit just so I can see it. Okay. No, I don't want this in there. Okay. So I'm just going to be delicate with this. It looks like there's a little square icon up there. I believe is for when you want to scan someone's QR code. So I'm just going to put the best way to design and to design fast is to use placeholders. I'm going to give it a 10-degree radius here. So the best way to design is to really use placeholders. And I actually want to change the length and width of this to be 30 by 30 so that it's a little bit smaller than my profile picture as it appears here. I'll go 40 by 40 just to give it a little bit more. Okay. And I'm gonna align it. Now you see how like my elements are snapping together with these red lines? That is snap by pixel. So when we looked at our workspace originally, there was a layout option that says snap by pixel. That's what that is. And then it looks like we have some text here for the dollar amount. So right here where it says T, that's where I can add in text. And when you do that, you drag and drop over the design and you create a text box. Now, I need to make my text a little bit bigger. So now that my text element is added, I can go to the right side of the screen here and I can change the size of the text. So let's see, we'll go with that amount, which it looks like, what, 96 is the size? Okay. And I'm just gonna edit this, bring it centered. Our text needs to be bold so I can change. Okay, we're getting some shape here. I'm not gonna, the perfectionist in me wants to match the text. This is probably as good as I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna just change it to that. No, 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 that's not good enough. Maybe, no. I'm not gonna do this because I don't want to take up everybody's time. We have places to be, but I really want to find a good font because, um, yeah, the perfectionist in me is like, no, it has to be right. Let's see this one. No, maybe we'll rock with. I think it was fine how it was, so I'm just gonna let it be and go back to. Oh, I can't even find an actual font that it originally was. So my bad, y'all. All right, so I think it was like Ender, maybe? No. Enter? Yeah, it was that. Whatever. We'll keep it as that. Whatever. All right, so but hey, if you ever wanted to be a perfectionist, that's how you find design. I mean, that's how you find the text. All right. Um it looks like there's a button underneath the number 20, the dollar amount, that allows you to select um the different currencies. Now I could use an ellipse for this, but I'm going to use a rectangle and I'm going to give that rectangle some radius. So I'm going to give it maybe like radius edges of 50 so it looks more like the design. Yep, yep, yep. All right. And then it looks like it has some transparency to it. So if I wanted to change the transparency of this, I can go to the field section right here, and then this number that says 100%, that changes the opacity. So I could change the opacity to like 50. And now you see how it's starting to look like the design? Just like that. It's like magic. It's literally like magic when you know what elements to look for, you know? I'm gonna duplicate. So I'm just gonna, let me clean up. So you see how I'm adding all these things in real fast? You wanna pace yourself because you wanna always name things, okay? So let me go back and name this. So this was the, I'll name it the QR code icon so that when I need to go back, I know where these elements are. I'm gonna put dollar amount entry field. That's what that technically should be. And then this is currency selection field. You want to rename, you want to always rename your layers because it is going to fill up quick. It is going to fill up so quick. So you want to make sure that you're naming things so that you can easily go back to these things. And also it kind of, I like that sometimes, like for instance, if I wanted to, like I can duplicate certain things and use them over, you know. Um, but it helps knowing what things are named and called so that you can actually effectively use them. So in here, I'm gonna make a little text field for the dollar, the actual currency name. Okay, I just selected it by holding Command Shift down, and I'm actually going to, and then the down button, and I'm going to actually change the size to, I'll go about there, and then change the alignment right here, range in the middle, okay, and then change the color to white. Boom. All right, this isn't true to design because there's a little drop down arrow in there, but I'll rock with this for now. Okay, centered it. Now I want to group these items actually, and I'm gonna, before I group them, I'm gonna rename this title. Boom. All right. So what I could do is I could group these items and I could either do it on the screen here by holding down, I believe, Shift and selecting the second item that I want to group together. And what happens is you can see here on the left side in the layer section that they're both highlighted. So I could select them both on the actual page on the workspace, or right here from the layer section, I could click on that first layer and then hold Shift down and click on the second layer, and then I can right click them and hit group selection, and then now they're grouped. So now I can just rename that group currency selection so that, you know, just keep things in order, keep things in order as much as possible so that when you, if you ever touch anything on here, like you don't want it just going all crazy or willy-nilly, as my mom would say. So, oh my God. So I'm gonna add in these numbers here. And what I did was I clicked on the dollar amount entry field and I just duplicated it. And I'm gonna just start typing in the numbers that are basically this this keypad down here for the dollar amount. Um, and I'm gonna change the size. I'll give it a 24 so that it's easy to use. And the way I'm basically resizing these boxes is I'm clicking outside of the box so that these little, I'm clicking out, so I'm clicking outside of the element, clicking outside of the element and then clicking on it so that these little white boxes that are allowing me to change the size of it appear. It makes it easier to manipulate the element. And I just changed the alignment of this um, so that it so that it's centered within this box. And real quick, you see how these both say dollar entry field? I don't want them to both say that because I don't want to be confused. So what I'm gonna name this is keypad number 1. And then I'm just gonna keep duplicating it over and over. And by default, it is going to update itself. So it went from keypad number 1, keypad number 2. It did it all on its own. So I didn't have to do that. I mean, I don't have to change it. And I'm gonna duplicate it again, do keypad number 3. It's just basically upgrading itself. So it's making my design process a little easier. And what I'm gonna do now to make it easier to make all 3 of these, I'm gonna select all 3 and then duplicate them again and then bring it down. This is what we call rapid prototyping. So you find the tricks of the trade to make things easier. And then by default, it makes 4, 5, and 6, but it looks kind of wacky. So I'm gonna have to maybe find these. So 4 is 4, good. 5 is 5, good. 6 is 6, great. All right. And I could put these in order just so that they're easier to navigate. There we go. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. So I selected all 3, holding down the shift key. So clicking on each one and holding the shift key, and then Command D, or if you're on a PC, it's Control D. And what you can see is as I'm dragging these things down, these numbers that appear like 55 and stuff, it's automatically spacing things. It's showing you the equivalence of the spacing so that you can keep your design orderly, which goes back to kind of like that visual hierarchy. And then let's see what goes for this one. It's a dot on the screen, a 0, and then it looks like a backwards arrow or a less than symbol. So now we have our keypad. Let's see what is what. So I'm just gonna put period there. And I'm gonna put that after the number 6. Number 8 is 0. So I'm gonna put that 0 in the title just to keep things as formal as possible. And then I'm gonna put that backwards, that less than symbol there. And then again, I want to group everything together. So I'm gonna click the first keypad number selection here, and I click the last keypad number item there, just to select them all together while holding down the shift key. And then I'm going to make them a group. So right clicking and then hitting group selection. And then I'm just going to rename this keypad. Okay. So I hope from you guys watching me do this that you're picking up just like the nature of like design, where it's like, okay, like literally just go for it. Do not overthink it, like just go for it. Like whatever you think of, sketch it and make it quickly. So I'm gonna make the request and pay button. Boom, I'm just duplicating this button right here. And I'm gonna actually stretch it out a little bit right there. And then I'm gonna duplicate it one more time. Uh-oh, what happened? Okay, so I'm gonna click on it and duplicate it and then bring it over. Okay, might need to change the size a little bit, change the size for that a little bit. Too bad. And then I'm gonna change the text to say request. And I'm gonna bring the size down. Okay, and pay. Okay, bring the size down. There we go. All right, and then it looks like we have 4 buttons down here. Now, actually, I think what I'm gonna decide to do for this tutorial, because I don't think I could find those icons. Like, it may be challenging to find those. I can show like a website where I could find them, but I'm just gonna show the process of product design and rapid designing versus like fully completing this design with all of these icons. Is that okay with you guys? Can you give me like a thumbs up if you're like, that's fine, like you get it, but I I do I don't think I could find all these designs. I mean, all these icons. For the ones that I can find, I'll put in there. But the ones that I can't find online, I will leave them be, because the goal is really to find it's really to learn how to make designs versus completing this design with all these icons, because some of these icons are specific to Cash App, and they may not be available online, but we can find them. If you heard me, please let me know in the chat. Like, I heard you. Just keep it going. Let me know in the chat, because I know we're pushing maybe like an hour and a half here. Yeah, we're pushing an hour and a half. So I may actually, I'm gonna leave out. I'll do the activity page and the confirmation page, but I'm gonna take out the scheduling page as well. All right, thank you guys for your grace. So let me actually take that out now. Move this page here. Boom. There we go. All right. So there's 4 icons down here. What I'm gonna do before I do that, let me rename this request button. Okay. Request label. Boom. And then pay button, pay label. All right, there we go. And then I'm gonna put these icons here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use placeholders. So I'm going to my QR code icon up here, Command D or Control D, and it looks like there's 5 little icons. So I'm gonna do Control D one more time. Hold on. Okay, so Control D or Command D, bring this one to be centered. It looks like these icons need to be like down to 20 by 20 instead of 40 by 40. So I'm just gonna do that. And you see how I just did like a group selection here? Uh-oh. One, make this 0. Okay, and it looks like I need to bring them actually 30 to 30 because 20 by 20 is too small. They pretty much disappear at that point. There we go. All right, I'm gonna bring in another one right here to the side. Good. Ooh. There we go. And bring another one in. Make sure it's equidistant. And bring one more in. Oops. There we go. Okay, somewhat equidistant. Those are my placeholders for the icons at the bottom. So I'm gonna skip the scheduling page right here because I don't even think that's a part of Cash App anymore. I'm gonna do the activity page. So this page is white. One thing I can bring over from this page, let me select these icons real quick. This one's the home icon. Which one is this supposed to be? This is the card icon. This one should be the, oh no, this is the bank icon. Okay, so instead of bank, I'm gonna just put the bank icon, put that name. This one in the middle is home icon, okay, because the home page, the page where you make the requests. All right, and then it looks like, I think this is like Bitcoin or something like that. Or rewards, that's the rewards icon. Okay. Okay, and then the last one is the activity page icon. Okay, got the titles wrong. I'm just gonna fix that real quick. And then this one is the activity icon, okay? There we go. All right, so let me make sure, let's see who's still with me. All right, cool. Thank you guys for still rocking with me. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna use placeholders as these. I'll bring them in just to show you guys how to bring in pictures as icons so that you can complete your app. So I'm going to group these real quick. This is the home toolbar. Okay. Now for this activity page, it looks like we have some text here. So I actually want to use, I want to use this text. Okay. And I'm gonna just make it black. So what's helpful is if you reuse the elements that are already in your design, because you don't want to have to like search up new text, fonts, and things like that. You want to just go with what you already have. Like keep it simple. Like really, really keep it simple. Like just do not make things harder for yourself because the name of the game is build fast and break things. We have another icon here. So I'm just going to duplicate things. So we have another icon, which is the search icon. I'm going to rename it. And then we have another profile here. And I'm actually going to duplicate the search icon and make it the profile picture. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the radius on it so that it's completely a circle. So I changed the radius to 50%. And then it looks like here there's a bunch of pictures for the activity section. So we have pictures of the people who've sent things or the different options here. So I'm going to just change that to 50. And then we'll just put that as a placeholder for promo, the get $5 promo. And I'm going to actually change the color of that to green, just so we know the distinction here, that that is what that is. And then duplicate it and change it back to gray. We'll put document colors, there we go. And then the duplication is the, okay, duplicate it one more time. Okay, and one more time, there we go. Bring this halfway. Me just being a perfectionist. Okay, so that's what that section looks like. That way it looks a little more realistic, you know? And it looks like there's some names underneath it. So I'm gonna just duplicate the text we have and I'm gonna type in get $5 because that's what this says in the app. Boom. So I'm clicking outside and then clicking inside just to get these little cursors to jump up. And I'm gonna align it properly so that when I want to snap things to different items, the alignment works properly. So that's a little key right there. So the reason why I'm able to center this text because when I duplicated this, when I duplicated up here where it says activity, it was aligned, the text was aligned to the left. But when I duplicated it, I made sure I changed the alignment to the middle. So, oh snap. Somebody says lost your share screen. Okay. Okay. Do you guys see my share screen again? I hope you guys didn't lose me for too long. Okay, just 2 minutes. Perfect. Okay, 2 minutes. All right. So the part that you missed was that I added in the text here underneath these little circular labels, and I centered the text. So what I wanted to highlight is I copied the activity text here. Do you guys see my shared screen properly? Okay, good. Okay. So what I wanted to point out is the text that I added underneath these little circles, it came from me copying where it says activity. Originally, that text was aligned to the left. And when you're aligning elements, you want to make sure that they're aligned in a way where when you want to snap them in place to each other, they can align properly. So let's say this name text right here was aligned to the left. Whenever I try to align it, it may only align with things that are aligned to the left. As you can see here, it's only trying to align with the left side of the circle. So you want to make sure that things are aligned properly in their own element so that you can align with the right type of alignment that you want to use. So when I centered the text, it allowed me to align with the center of the circle. So that's just a little tidbit. All right. So I'm duplicating away. And eventually, as I duplicated it basically put it all in order. So let's see where, let me go and rename these things. So get $5 text. Okay. Name placeholder 1. Okay. And I'm going to just copy this text. Thank you guys for catching that my screen didn't share, because that would have like messed things up for for all the people that want to see all this information. So get $5 photo icon, put icon. And I'll name this 1. Okay. And eventually I'm just going to group all these items because I do not want them to be all over the place. Okay. Boom. All right. And it looks like from here, this is activity title. Okay. So I'm going to group. I'm going to bring this up here. Or actually, I'm going to bring this down here. And bring this down here too. And I want to group these items together. So this is the friends section. I'll just say friends section. Cool. Leave that be. It's starting to look pretty good. Okay. All right. For some reason, there's like a gap of gray here. So I'm going to put that in as a little rectangle. It's kind of like a non-functioning piece, but it does help bring some order. And I'm actually going to bring the color of that down to that color right there, to a lighter gray, just so it doesn't have like too much harshness on the app. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. And then it looks like you got a bunch of names and the text. So I'm going to duplicate this one right here. Oops. Okay. And I want to bring this outside of its group. So what I'm going to do is move it outside the group so that it doesn't manipulate anything else. I'm going to put name placeholder as the text. Okay. And I'm going to align the text to the right. Okay. And then I'm going to duplicate it again. And I'm going to put user activity placeholder there. And I'm going to unbold the text, make it regular, just so it looks just like the app. There we go. And then I'm actually going to duplicate this and put a little dollar amount right there. Just a little dollar symbol like that. And I'm going to center that and then bring it over here. Bring it over just right there. Okay. So you guys see how like you can take these things, and I'm actually gonna bring this over a little bit. So I'm basically using the arrow key right now because I forgot there are profile pictures next to these things. So I'm gonna duplicate one of my circles and drop it right there. All right. So now I can take that and duplicate that over and over. So let me, I'm gonna rename this activity profile pic just so I know where my items are. Um, User activity name. Okay. User activity text. Can you guys let me know how you're doing in the chat? Like, are you guys enjoying watching me do this? Like, like are y'all learning stuff, or is it like, okay, oh man. Transaction amount. So right now I'm just labeling all of I'm labeling all of these things. Okay. So we got the transaction, the username. Okay, great. Thank you for that feedback. The user activity, hold on, shift. Okay, good. And let me move search icon out of this way. So I want the user activity, text, the place, the transaction amount, the user activity name, and the profile pic. I want that all to be in a group. So I'm going to group that. Okay. And activity, user activity, content or section. I'll say section. Okay. So I could duplicate that if I want and then bring it down. I'm actually going to just duplicate this menu and bring it over here and bring it into the center of the design. Boom. And there we go. We got our second page. Now I could duplicate this. I'm going to just to show you guys the fullness of this. And actually what you can see here is as I'm clicking Control D, it's doing it itself. Like it's spacing everything out itself. So I'm gonna like select these options all together and bring them down just so I have some more, you know, just so it looks more orderly. But we have the app, like the app basically is designed. I think the only thing I probably didn't do right is I didn't center the number, the dollar amount number between these two elements, but we'll live. All right, so looks like we have an X up here at the top of the screen. Moving on to the confirmation page, we have another set of icons, which is the menu option right here. Those three dots, we'll add those in. And we have a profile pic icon here. I'm going to increase it to 60 by 60. Okay. And it looks like we have some text under there. So I'm going to just duplicate some of the text that we already have in our app. Okay. And let me align this text center so that it aligns well. And I'm actually going to increase this to 70 by 70, make it a little bit bigger. There we go. We got the dollar amount. I'm going to copy our dollar amount from our main first page here, and I'm going to change the color. It looks like it's like a gray, so I'm just going to go to where that color is in the app. Bam, there we go. Okay, bring that center. Looks like it's a little bit lower, so I'm bringing it right there. We got some more text under here. I actually want this to say payment was sent, because this is like the workflow for like if you wanted to let me see, cash app confirmation page. I want to make the page that shows that you received that money was sent. And I think the way it looks is like, yeah, so it has the icon, who it was sent to. So let me just pull this out. This would be good for agile products. So somebody in chat said this would be good for agile projects. So when the client customer wants to change one thing, you don't have to change all things. So best to label all things along the way. Exactly, exactly. You literally hit it right on the nail. The reason why I emphasize editing the labels as you go is because if you're a UX designer or UX researcher, there's a way in here where you can link, I think it's this link icon actually. No, there's a way in here to basically create like a themed template, like each button. So a friend of mine who's a UX designer, she creates these full out workspaces where the buttons are all laid out, the text is all laid out, the icons are all laid out, and it makes it easy for you to be able to select that specific asset. Yeah, it's like an asset page. You're able to select that specific asset and apply it to all the different frames and pages within your design. So it's very crucial that you name things as you go, because you need to be able to reference those assets quickly and add them into your project. So thank you for calling that out in the chat. So I'm actually going to design this last page as the confirmation page instead of the page that's laid out on here. So I'm just going to drag it into the project real quick. There we go. Dragged it right in because I like that design better. So let me just duplicate that. This should be bold. Boom. There we go. I'm going to name things later. Bear with me. I don't think this aligned right. Oh, well, I'm not going to. There we go. Okay, cool. Text, duplicate it. Okay. Okay. So I'm literally just being a stickler. And then I'm going to duplicate this button and bring it in here to the bottom. And we're almost done, guys. We're almost done. I just need to change the fill for this. Okay. So I'm going to change this to 100 again. And I'm going to add a stroke, yeah, an outline. Okay. So I'm going to make the stroke the gray area, and I'm going to change the button fill to be white so that it matches. And then I'm going to change the text that's within it to be the green that we see in the project. Boom. All right. So we're going to change that to, I wish I had a check symbol on him, but I'm just going to change it to say completed, just so we can get this done. There we go. And then I'm going to change the length of this button. There we go. We're getting there. Okay. I'll just change it like this. All right. And that was like, so we got, I'm going to edit a little bit of this real quick. So this says profile name. I'm going to put transaction details right there. put transaction details again, and then transaction. I'm gonna just put timestamp. Oh, we literally have these 3 pages now. Like, we have these pages. Now that that's done, what I'm gonna do, since I know we are really, really, again, we did a 2-hour workshop again. So since I know we're hard on time, the last thing that I want to show, and I know I didn't clean up the information, like these titles. The last thing I would technically do are 2 things. I would change the titles on each of these buttons, which I'm not going to do now because I know we're running short on time. But one thing that I do want to show you how to do is how to change change these icons into pictures. So what you can do is you could click on the icon and then click picture here, and then you're able to select the picture that you'd like to put in here. So I can choose the image, and then I can choose like any element. So I'm gonna find a quick search icon off of the Noun project. So that's one thing I do want to show you guys. There's this website called the Noun project, and I want to make sure that is in here before you guys are off this workshop. So if you're ever looking for looking for if you're ever looking for icons, the Noun project is where you go. The Noun project, okay? So you go to the Noun project. I think this is really important. And I do think there's like a directory of icons on Figma as well. I'm just very used to going to the Noun project, and you can type in words to find icons that represent those words. So in this case, I want to find the search icon. So I typed in search, found a bunch of icons that represent search. I can click get this icon, and then I'm gonna sign in real quick so that I can sign in and get this icon. And then from there, once I'm signed in, I always do a basic download because it's free. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to download it as a PNG. We talked about the difference between PNGs and SVGs in the Intro to Graphic Design court or workshop. And now that I have it downloaded, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to Figma. And then what I can do is I now have already selected the fill for this icon up here. I'm going to click. Actually, I'm selecting the wrong one. Give me one moment. This is the one I want to change. So this one up here, actually, is the search icon up here. So I'm going to go back to where the fill is, click right here where it says image, and then I'm going to hit choose image, and then we'll open my most recent downloads. I'm going to my download and click on it and then hit open, and then boom, it automatically appears. So I can either choose to keep it the same way as fill, or I can hit crop and I can change it up a bit. But I'm gonna just keep it as fill. Right now, it has this little, can be looking close, it has the little attribution. There's a way of deleting that or like getting rid of it. Like you can just crop it out. Like if I select this and hit crop, now I can like, boop, there we go. Now it's not in my design. Hit enter. Bam. All right. So then, oh man, I cracked myself up with these side effects. I mean, with these sounds. All right. So there we go. So what I can do, because I know we're at 2 hours and I do not want to drag you guys like even longer, but this basically wraps up like how you would use this platform. Two things that I would do to finish this up. I would finish naming all these elements in for my confirmation page in my layer section. I will clean that up because I want to keep things as concise and grouped up as possible. So I have a clean amount of assets. All my assets are clean. And then I would go into each of these placeholders and put in my icons using the Noun project, okay? So that concludes the workshop portion of what we did today for the Intro to Product Design segment or workshop. Couple things I want to do as housekeeping. Um, Project Share, again, the Project Share link is available for you guys to upload. When you guys work on things from these workshops, I would love to see you guys add your project to our Project Share page. And actually, I just realized that there was something that I did not show you guys how to do on on here. I didn't show you guys how to add click features, but we're at 2 hours, so I do not want to drag you guys too much. But I can revisit that with you guys we um, when we do the web design option. Because even right now, as I'm looking for the feature, it's losing me right now. But I did want to actually show you guys how to make the actual prototype clickable. So sorry, that was just a thought. But yeah, that's one thing I didn't get to show you guys, but I can revisit that when we do the web design, which is next week. So next week is our web development workshop, and I can revisit that. Yeah, I'm gonna go over careers. Thank you for asking that. So that was my last slide for today. So opportunities in product design. These are the careers. So in the workshop, I covered UX design and UI designer. So the workflow of what we did in the workshop on Figma, that is the work of a UX designer or a UI designer. UX stands for user experience, UI stands for user interface. So when I was designing the Cash App app, I was designing the user interface. I was acting as a UI designer. And if I had programmed the buttons to link the pages, I would have performed the action of the UX designer, who is the person who designs and programs or not so much programs, but designs the experience of how you get through the app. Now, when we talked about the product design process, that technically is the work of UX researchers. So a lot of people think when they are making a product that they must, focus only on like what's on the screen. But before you even put anything on the screen, you need to do UX research to really understand what you're doing, to really understand if the design you are going to create is actually effective. So those top three, I think, are very important design jobs. Underneath them, you have interaction designer, which is very similar to a UX designer. Experience designer, again, that stems from UX designer. Design strategist, that is a person that would fit more so in like the empathy stage and the define stage. They really strategize like what is going into the design, very similar to the UX researcher. You have your visual designer, which stems from the UI designer. The visual designer is focusing solely on aesthetics, shapes, the pathology behind it. How does the design actually evoke emotion or create some type of direction based off of how it's formatted and how it looks? Creative director, I think those jobs really, really center around the overall management of the aesthetic. Product designer, is what we did today. Really, a product designer is the culmination of all these roles. And when you're the lead, you are really the culmination because you are the person overseeing the entire process, the implementation of it, managing it, and making sure that it is effective. So, with no further ado, I will conclude this workshop. If you have any questions, please email me at info@wearetech.education or DM wearetech or DM us at weare.tech on Instagram. Please invite more people to these workshops. We're only getting better as we go, and we really thrive from being able to really serve you guys. So I thank you guys so much for being patient and getting through this workshop. I thank you so much. You'll be getting the recording shortly. You'll see it in your email, and I'll be following up with a newsletter type of email that provides all the links and has all the slides in each of these recordings for you guys. So you guys have a great night and a great rest of your week. Please say bye to your fellow participants in the chat. You're welcome, guys. Thank you guys for bearing with me. You guys really sit with me for 2 hours to get this done. I really appreciate it. So I will I'll have a great week as well. And you guys take care. Bye. Thank you. Have a great